Welcome to our next episode on eating more and losing more, how restoring our metabolism can help with healthy and sustainable fat loss. So this is a bit of a controversial topic about how can we actually eat more and lose weight? How does that work? So it's a nuanced conversation, which is why we're having it today. So we're going to be looking at how you could do that, how you can eat more food but also lose weight, regardless of whether you have hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, or whether you're in perimenopause or nearing perimenopause. So why this conversation really, really matters. I'm quite passionate about this topic. The mainstream weight loss advice of eating less and moving more is quite oversimplified, especially for women, and it ends up backfiring on us. We get stuck in this trap of restrictive, low calorie diets, and then our weight doesn't budge, or we're maintaining our weight at a really low caloric level, and that's not going to be healthy for the long term either. What's going on here is we're experiencing metabolic adaptation, which is normal and expected when you're reducing calories, but we get stuck with our metabolism at a lower level once we've been dieting for long periods of time. So, if we don't account for this metabolic adaptation, if we don't learn to rebuild back up those calories and we're going through these phases of dieting, then what ends up happening is we're essentially dieting ourselves into oblivion. We end up having to maintain our weight at a much lower caloric level. And then, if we ever want to lose weight again, we really don't have much place to go. If we're already eating 1,200, 1,300 calories a day, we don't have anywhere else to go from there. Are you going to eat 1,000 calories a day, right? You end up kind of pushing yourself against a wall. The undereating doesn't only just stall our weight loss, it hurts our energy, our hormones, super important, our mood, our overall health. So, undereating is a real thing that happens with women, whether we realize it or not, and it has so many implications on our life. So most women generally should be eating closer to 1,800 calories a day or more, even if they're not exercising. That's the amount that we should generally be maintaining our weight at the lowest level. I love when I see my female clients, they come in and they're maintaining their weight closer at 2,000 calories a day or even 23 up to 2,300 calories a day, because then we have so much more room to go. We can put them in a deficit and they're not having to eat 1,200 calories a day, right? That's the standard advice. Just diet at 1,200 a day. And that's just so low for so many people. That is like bare minimum for most women to just survive, like sleep, breathe, and poop, you know? So personally, I was maintaining my weight. This is over 11 years ago now. I was maintaining my weight at 1,400 calories a day, bare minimum. And I was exercising a lot. I was weight training, I was doing cardio, I was on my feet all day working in busy physical therapy clinics. I was also a dog walker, so I was very active. And I didn't understand that that was a problem. I didn't even understand that I was under eating. And this is so common. We're going to touch on this later in this conversation as well. It was causing me so much hormonal dysregulation, so much distress. I had terrible PMS. I got diagnosed with hypothyroidism at that time, and my cortisol levels were terrible. I was essentially flatlined in the morning, and it just persisted flatline throughout the day. So I had terrible energy, and I needed to eat more. It was a huge piece of my recovery. My nurse practitioner at the time told me that, and I thought she was ridiculous. She told me I needed to decrease my activity and increase my calories when I was already struggling with stubborn weight gain. But she was right, and it took me a while to do that, but that was revolutionary for me when my body was just so stubborn. I went from eating 1,400 calories a day, increased it to 1,700 calories a day. Took me a year to do that because psychologically it can be really challenging to start eating more, especially if you feel like you have really stubborn fat loss and then you're going to start eating more. It seems almost counterintuitive. So it took me a while. So I get the psychological resistance there. Then I built all the way up to maintaining my weight around 2,300 calories a day. And I actually weigh less and do less physically than I used to. So again, I eat more, I weigh less, and I do less physically. And I'm the healthiest I have ever been. One of the best things I've done for my health was to eat more. It was so impactful on my hormones, my strength, so my performance and my workouts. My physique is so much better eating more, which again sounds so counterintuitive. You think, oh, to get lean, and look strong and fit, I want to actually go in a big deficit. It is not true. It is not true. Eating more is so important for our mental health as well. We don't have to follow these strict diets. We have more food flexibility and we can actually stay lean and strong. Like it's so much easier than we were told. And I'm annoyed that I wasn't told about this a long time ago, but now I know. So now I'm enlightening you guys, hopefully. So, this is the Feminine Strength Podcast. If you are new here, this is where we share innovative strategies for women to build a strong, fit, healthy body while supporting their hormonal health and improving nervous system resilience. I'm your host, Jess Mather. I'm a strength and rehab professional with over 14 years of experience helping thousands of clients around the world get healthier, happier, and stronger in their body. So, in this episode about undereating, we're going to be looking at why undereating actually stalls fat loss, how chronic dieting affects our metabolism and our hormones, especially as women, and how to restore your metabolism without wrecking your body and also losing fat. So, let's talk a little bit about this chronic dieting and metabolic adaptation and why women are undereating anyway. Our entire lives, typically, we have been told to eat less, especially in mainstream media, diet culture. We've been told throughout our lifetime, even as little girls, we need to eat less. We've been exposed to a lot of the commercials. I still remember the Special K commercials, the diet bars, all sorts of different diet shakes and this and that. That was part of our entire life. So it's normal for us to think, oh, I just need to diet. I need to eat less in order to either lose weight or maintain a smaller weight. It was low fat everything. Right now it's low carb everything. The trend was this heroin chic in the 90s, is these models from the early 90s also were just very thin. That was the thing. Be thin, right? Low calorie dieting, like very low calorie dieting, 1200, 1300 a day has been the default. That has just been the default across the boards. Even doctors are recommending people with obesity to just eat as low as possible. And yes, for a short period of time, that will rapidly drop the weight. You've probably experienced that before, and it's not sustainable and it can backfire again. So that's why we're looking at a different alternative to the very restricted 1200 calorie diets. So what happens then is also as we go really low in calories, it just becomes our lifestyle. We just start to maintain our weight at very low calories, which is not good for our hormones, our energy, our performance in the gym. It's chronic stress on our body, and our body does not respond well to chronic stress, right? We are also taught as women to fear food in a way. We shouldn't eat certain foods. We can't eat this. We can't eat that. Can I eat this? But I really need to be low carb now. Even just last night, a client had messaged me and she had just started with us and she's saying, I don't really know like how to eat. I don't know how to not follow a diet. When we were on our consultation call, she's asking me, how are you going to have me eat? And we explained the process a little bit that we're not setting strict diet rules. That's the learning process, is learning actually how to eat for your body and start to eat more without feeling like you have to push yourself in this little box and you never get to enjoy French fries or hamburgers or whatever you like to eat. Again, there is another way here. So personally, this was a fear of mine as well. When I started eating more, I was like, oh my God, am I going to gain the weight? I'm already unhappy in my body. I already feel so bloated and blah. My hormones are already a mess. And now I'm going to eat more. And what is that going to be like? So it took me about a year to go from eating 1400 calories a day to 1700 calories a day. It doesn't have to take that long. That took me a long time because I didn't have the support or the resources or the understanding how to do this. This was over 11 years ago, so there just wasn't as much conversation about this going on. So, which is why I'm here today. Like, there's an easier way, and here's how you do it. So, in reality, the body needs fuel to maintain your muscle and to build muscle. We need the appropriate amount of fuel for your metabolism, for hormonal balance, especially as women. It's so important. I think I've got you enough buy-in here that if you're under eating, if you're eating below 1800 calories a day, you probably need to boost your intake, especially if you're weightlifting. So some common dieting patterns like we talked about is going to be somewhere on that 1200 to 1400 a day is quite normalized. We don't want to make this a pattern. A lot of women don't even realize they're eating that low, but typically women who are eating around that caloric level, they're skipping meals or they're fasting excessively, which we've been told is healthy, but not necessarily. So if you're skipping meals, if you're only eating like 1 or 2 meals a day, you might feel like you're eating a lot of food because you're eating a lot at once. But typically, when we really track how much food are in those 1 to 2 meals, it's still not enough. It's still only about 1,200 to 1,400 a day. So, really, what can be beneficial for women who are under eating is actually increasing their meal frequency. So, eating more like 3 times a day so that you can spread those calories out. We see women also end up fasting or skipping meals when they're under a lot of stress. So it happens almost organically. They're not intentionally doing it, but it ends up happening because their appetite is so low, because their metabolism is so low. That was something I didn't understand. It's like, well, I don't feel hungry all the time. So how am I under eating? But it's because of that metabolic adaptation. We also see some habits are women will have an over reliance on cardio. They feel like they constantly have to do cardio in order to keep their weight at what it is, where then we also see that metabolic slowdown. They're not doing enough strength training to help boost their metabolism. And then we also see women aren't eating enough protein, which is really important too for metabolic health. We usually see women eating only about 50 to 60 grams of protein a day, which is typically going to be too low. So again, when we are eating too little, we have metabolic adaptation that occurs, which is okay. It's normal and expected, but we need to account for that and build back up the calories so that we make sure we're not maintaining our weight at the same amount that we were trying to diet down at. So what happens when we're under eating for long periods of time is our thyroid will start to slow down. Again, natural occurrence, but we don't want to have that happen for long periods of time. So the metabolism will slow when we see that is more chronic. We see women will have the cold hands and feet, fatigue, the hair thinning. I've been there, done that. It's not fun. I got diagnosed with that hypothyroidism when I was in my under eating period. And a big piece of why I had hypothyroidism was because I was so stressed out, overtraining, under eating. We also see that if you're not eating enough, you're not going to be building muscle, one, and then we can also have muscle breakdown. So we really need to prioritize muscle building, especially if you're refeeding. Muscle is one of the very few evidence-based tools or strategies to improve metabolic function. Very few evidence-based strategies exist to actually boost metabolism. Drink this tea or take this supplement or take this herb. We know muscle does improve metabolic function. You can eat more food without weight gain. We do know that. So building muscle is a key piece of refeeding, or what we also call reverse dieting is another word for this. Muscle will transform your metabolism. It will transform your physique. I think I've said enough on this podcast. So the other thing we see, again, coming back to the chronic stress, we see more belly fat retention. And we see more swelling and bloating in general, just from the higher levels of cortisol. We see more of the stubborn fat where we just cannot lose, the 10, 15 pounds. We have really, really stubborn fat. Our body is just in a downregulated state. It doesn't mean that it's stuck there. That's an important thing to note too. It doesn't mean that it's stuck there. It just means that we need to get it out of this downregulated state. So a few more signs you're under eating: always cold, poor circulation, low energy, fatigue, brain fog. You can see these are very similar to hypothyroidism symptoms. Weak nails, thinning hair, dry skin, poor sleep, mood swings, irritability. We know people are under eating. No progress in fat loss despite controlling your calories and eating really well. Losing your period, of course, is a big sign that you're under eating. I went through that several times when I was in my early 20s, or if your cycle is really irregular and, of course, not adjusting for perimenopause, but if your cycle is unusually irregular as well. Our reproductive hormones are really hit hard when we're under eating. We cannot get away with calorie deficits in the same way that men can. We did another episode on the many differences between men and women and how we should train and eat differently. So we can't get away with dieting in the same way that a man would. We need to diet differently. Our body is too sensitive to restrictive diets because of our reproductive hormones. So that low energy availability is going to be more stressful for us. We'll have the disrupted cycles, possibly fertility issues, low libido. I have women coming in who want to get pregnant, and always we're looking at food intake. Are you fueling enough? Are you healthy? Are your hormones balanced? So, the secret word that I'm going to leave you with this podcast as we continue on this episode, if you haven't watched my other episodes, I drop in a secret word in every episode. And if you collect 8 of these secret words, then we'll give you 10% off our feminine strength training and nutrition program. So, the secret word today is Christmas, like the holiday, Christmas. Christmas is our secret word. So, again, you uh, gather 8 of those secret words, you write them all down, come in for a consult for feminine strength, and we'll give you 10% off. Okay, now let's go into how eating more can actually help you lose fat. Sounds completely counterintuitive, but refeeding or reverse dieting, we kind of use those terms interchangeably, means we are gradually, carefully increasing calories to restore that metabolic health. Physique competitors have been doing this a really long time. They diet down and cardio down to a very low body fat percentage for the show. It's their show weight, and it is a very low weight. They cannot maintain it. That's why it's a show weight. They can't maintain that low body fat. It's not healthy, it's not functional, it's not sustainable. So then they have to rebuild their calories back up. That's what they do. And then they rebuild their calories back up. They go to a weight that they're able to actually sustain. And then they start to go back down in calories if they do another show. But they have to do these waves and these cycles. And for them, they do put on a little bit of weight because they need it, because they need that weight. Their body really needs to put on that weight if they're in a super low body fat percentage. When we do refeeds or reverse dieting, we're doing it in a way that minimizes that fat gain. So it's a gradual increase of calories, typically mostly protein. As we say, most women are deficient in protein. And we're doing this on a progressive overload training program. So we're actively trying to build muscle while we do this. What happens too, so when we're doing this, we're starting to eat a little bit more food, we're starting to weight train. What happens is our hormones start to get that little bit of a boost. We are increasing our energy, which increases what's called our TDEE, our total daily energy expenditure. So we start to naturally move a little bit more, burn a little bit more calories. Our energy is boosted. So again, we might want to spontaneously move more. And then with the added bonus of building that muscle, we ultimately are burning more calories at rest. So we're slowly increasing our calories, building a little bit of muscle, moving organically a little bit more, and then we're getting away from actually gaining weight. So strength training plus eating enough food, the appropriate amount for you at the appropriate time, equals the lean, strong, healthy physique that most women feel very happy with. It's simple, it's sustainable. Now, I want to be clear what I mean by lean. A lot of women, they don't agree with what lean is for them. Most women, they will feel really good around 20 to 22% body fat, which is not super shredded. You might not even see visible abs at 20%, depends on the woman. Some women will, but I want to make that clear as even up to 25%, women can feel really lean and strong and fit. So when I say that lean and strong and fit body, I said that a lot throughout the podcast, it doesn't mean necessarily like shredded, okay? It means generally within 20 to 25%, maybe a little bit lower if you can maintain it, but usually that 20 to 25% range is going to be good for women. They feel healthy, you have a healthy amount of body fat on you, but you feel really fit and strong. So to do this, to start eating enough food and weight training, this doesn't mean counting calories like crazy every day. It doesn't mean going to the gym 6 days a week. It's 3 days a week of weightlifting. It's learning how to eat enough, learning what that means, what that looks like on your plate, and just doing that on repeat and then adjusting that as you go. It doesn't have to be super complicated. It should be not that complicated, really. So let's talk a little bit about macros, since I know that's topic of conversation. I might do a longer workshop on macros, but essentially, like to do bare bones, what you want to do for macros, which are your protein, carbs, fat, sometimes alcohol, you want your protein to be around 0.07 to 1 grams per pound of body weight. So like a 100-pound female, which is actually quite low as I say that. There's really very little 100-pound females. So let's say a 120-pound female even is quite light, but she would eat maybe around 100 grams of protein, right? For reference, 150-pound woman might eat around 120, 130 grams of protein. That's what that looks like. We need to be eating carbs for sure. We're not doing a reverse diet on low carb. So you're going to eat your carbs. It's fuel for your workouts. It's good for your thyroid. It's good for nervous system function. Then we have our fats as well that are also important, crucial for your hormone production and your satiety. So I'm going very briefly on that, but just know it's not low carb, it's not low fat, it's moderate protein as well. So very, very general, how to start eating more without gaining fat. Just to do a recap here as we close up, you want to first assess your current intake. Make sure you know what you're eating. You don't want to guess. You don't want to be like, I'm pretty sure I'm under eating, and then you just start eating a bunch more food. That's not going to end well. That's not going to turn out the way that we're talking about. So you want to assess your current intake, track your food for several days. That's what I have all my clients do. They come in, we have a very specific document for them to track their food for 5 days. I take a look at it. We see what are the calories, what are the macros, and then we adjust from there. But we need to know the baseline first. You cannot just plug your stuff into like some sort of online calculator. It's not going to necessarily be accurate. Okay? So you want to get your true maintenance calories. Then we want to slowly increase the calories. And that's at a different pace depending on the individual, depending on how much extra activity you're doing, depending on the training. So we want to slowly rebuild the calories while tracking weight to make sure that you're not going too fast or too slow. And then we want to prioritize that strength training, progressive overload training. Make sure you are progressing. You're not just using the same weights. You're not doing a bunch of random workouts. You're not just doing the same videos over and over again on YouTube. That you're actually on a progressive weightlifting training program where you're tracking your reps, really important. And then lastly, which we didn't talk too much about here, is managing your stress and your sleep so that you're also helping your body rebuild. You're not chronically running around in a stressed out state. You're eating, you're fueling, you're nourishing your body, you're weightlifting, but you're recovering, you're resting. That is the solution. That is the solution that is sustainable, that is caring, that is not depleting. We do not have to deplete ourselves to lose weight. Okay? So, the other thing I want to mention too, so as you refeed, as you boost your calories up, typically, women will not lose weight while we're boosting the calories up. They'll usually just maintain. The point is, we boost your calories all the way up. This is where it's a nuanced conversation. We do boost your calories up, you maintain, and maybe some women do lose a little bit as we increase calories because they're moving more, they're weightlifting, they're building muscle, their hormones are so happy. But typically what will happen, we'll build their calories up as high as we can go, which is usually that 2,000 to 2,300 range, sometimes more, depending on how active the woman is. Sometimes it could be 25 to 2,800 calories a day. They're maintaining their weight. Then we put them in a very slight deficit. And then that's when the weight just drops off so easily. They're still eating so much. They're not feeling hungry all the time on their diet. They're not feeling depleted. It's a way easier way to do things, way easier. Okay, so this is a really quick and snappy episode, but if you want a personalized step-by-step plan on how to do this, we cover this in our Feminine Strength program. A lot of women coming in, we do this, we personalize how much to eat, we keep adapting the training and the nutrition for them to make sure that they're progressing in the right direction so they're not getting lost anywhere. When you're doing a refit and reverse dieting, a lot of fears will come up, a lot of hesitations, a lot of like, well, what about this and what about that? So that's what we're here for. And we need to adjust the training and the nutrition as your body adjusts. So I say it's a little bit science, it's a little bit skill, it's a little bit art. So if you want that sort of support, especially if you have 10 to 20 pounds you want to drop, maybe you have hormonal dysregulation or you have Hashimoto's, is very common in the women that come in Feminine Strength, and you feel like you've kind of exhausted your options. You don't know how to lose weight, but you have a feeling that you should be eating more, you want to get strong, you want to be healthy, you want to rebuild, you want to nourish in a way that's not restrictive, then Feminine Strength might be great for you. So the website to learn more is at rebuildingbody.com/feminine strength. And again, if you collect 8 of our secret words, you can get 10% off. And I think that about covers it for this episode. Feel free to leave some comments on this one, ask any questions you have. Again, this is a nuanced topic, but absolutely transformational for the right women. It certainly was for me. All right, thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you in the next episode.